When you pick up medication from a pharmacy, you might find the name on the label to be a tongue twister. But at least you should be able to assume that the pills inside the box are exactly what they're supposed to be, and that they are safe for consumption. This doesn't come from the belief that people in the pharmaceutical industry never make mistakes, because, let's be honest, errors can occur in any field, including pharmaceuticals. So what's the secret then? Well, because of an industry-wide supported quality system in which audits play a crucial role. So if we need to audit another pharma company, how do we do that? What skills do we need, and how much does it on average cost to perform an audit? We'll cover this and more in this video. Today we partnered up with Rephine to make this video for you. Rephine is a global organization that performs audits at pharma companies worldwide. Okay, to understand better, let's say we both work for a company that produces medicines. Company X.
Amar, we might get in trouble with this name.
Yeah, okay, Company Y. We want to produce medicines that contains escitalopram to treat depression and anxiety. So we need the API and other ingredients which we buy from a supplier. This will be the first time that we do business with this supplier. They seem to have a GMP certificate, a DMF for the API, and they are FDA inspected. Based on the certificates, this company looks good. But don't forget, we are responsible for the quality of our medicine. So are these certificates enough? Nope. One important aspect is missing. So far we haven't seen anything from the supplier with our own eyes. So let's organize an audit at our supplier. To make sure we get the most out of this audit, I asked Eduard Caillon for some advice. He's the Chief Scientific Officer at Rephine and has done hundreds of audits worldwide over the last 20 years. First, we need to know what an audit is and understand what we want to check. In the pharmaceutical industry, quality audits focus on a company's ability to consistently meet the requirements of GMP and to make sure every step in the process is done according to the registration file, approved by health authorities. The most important things we want to check during audit are: do they have appropriate facilities, equipment, and services? Does the entire team have the necessary knowledge? Is there a mature quality system? How about effective and representative documentation and record-keeping system? Is there a risk management mindset and critical thinking? What about continuous training, leadership and staff engagement, and data integrity that provides traceability of all relevant operations? So in short, an audit is an independent and systematic examination of an organization and its processes. Okay, we've arranged a date with the supplier, booked plane tickets and a hotel, so what's next? We want to prepare for the audit. The audit processes involve several steps, including checking public information about the company or person we are about to audit, preparing a pre-audit questionnaire, reviewing reports from previous audits, and assessing which products and processes will be audited. All of these steps contribute to evaluating a potential risk. By the way, if your company gets audited, a tip to study the profile of the auditors, so you're prepared for his or her expertise. Good morning. It's audit day today. This means that we will be visiting our supplier today. So, who will we meet? Usually the site manager, the quality manager, the production manager, probably also the logistic manager, engineering manager, and some quality officers. The time is limited. An audit typically takes just a day or two. In that time span, we have to find out all we want to know. When we arrive at the manufacturing plant, they will usually welcome us to have a coffee and a chat before the audit starts. And then we begin. Most of the time, they will now tell us everything they want us to know about their company. See it as a theater. And now it's our job not to stay in this theater, but to take the lead and talk about the topics that we actually want to discuss. But how do you do that? I asked Edouard for advice.
For example, I made you an example that is very clear. We enter in a facility and the people start to explain a lot of things about that. This is that, this is the reactor, that, the flow. No, I'm sorry, I will make your questions. I can see the reactors, pipes, everything. But my question is blah, blah. And then you take the leadership of the audit, not the auditee. Then maybe sometimes not starting for the flow that could be logical and then starting by another way. That because you consider that is more critical. Because if not, at the end you start, for example, for the warehouse of raw materials in API, that it is less critical area in the plant. And you are fresh, etc. You spend there a lot of time, and then when you arrive to the critical areas, you should be hurry because your time is finished.
Usually, an audit consists of two parts. First, we check the facilities and talk with the people within the organization. Then we dive into the paperwork. Most of the time, international audits are in English, but in some cases, an official and skilled translator is part of the auditing team. During the audit, you can classify your findings into minor, major, or critical findings. In case of a critical finding, action needs to be taken immediately. However, the most common findings are related to data integrity, cleaning, quality oversight, and material management. Probably not the most fun part, but of course very important, is writing the report after we've performed the audit. What skills do you need for performing audits? To become an auditor, you need to have the right knowledge about processes, regulations, and procedures. You also need to understand cultural etiquettes. We've made a video about it. You should check it out if you want to learn more about it. But I also asked Edouard, what personal skills are important to become a good auditor?
Some auditors that I met have the problem that they want to demonstrate what they know in the audit. Okay, that is very, very, very bad. It's a role play, and it's necessary to not forget that it's a role play. No personal issues. It's just business. And also another skill that is really necessary is to be able to have a good communication with, because you should be very clear, but also not be negative. Explain, discuss, calm, and with smiling, only smiling. But it is something that is necessary to have this skill.
How much does it cost? Every audit is different, of course, but you can say that in general audits come with serious costs. To calculate, it's 3 days of preparation, 3 days of traveling, 2 days of auditing, 3 days of reporting, 3 days of CAPA follow-up, plus travel expenses. So that's a total of 14 days, depending on the scope of the audit. Sometimes there are even multiple auditors involved. And we're talking about senior level staff here that are high in pay grade. To give you an idea, however, what an audit costs, if you add everything up together, it's approximately $24,000 per audit. What's the difference between a health authority inspection, like GMP, and a supplier audit? When you audit your API supplier, it will be based on two important aspects. First, you want to be sure that this supplier will also pass future authority inspection. If you add the supplier to your application file, you're quite dependent on it, so you want to make sure they will pass future GMP audits too. Second is that a supplier audit will be focused on processes relevant to the product you buy. For example, you can dive into specific complaints, data, and knowledge related to your API. Did audits change over the years?
Yes, I think in 20 years ago, an activity that was not very common. We was the pioneers on that, and then the auditee is not used also to receive audits. I have some family memories, for example. They received me with flowers, and they received me with national song, with the flags, etc. It was really an event that some people from Western company come to audit the plan. Okay, and also I was very open and sometimes as not used to be audited, explain many things that probably was not so smart to explain, okay? And that was an exercise that was more special 20 years ago, okay?
When Rephine audits a company, they are able to provide their audit reports to multiple organizations, instead of every single company having to do their own individual audit. Because of this, they are able to offer these audit reports much cheaper. For most pharma companies, doing audits is only something that happens a few times a year. But for Rephine, as it's their core business, they are specialized in performing efficient and top-notch audits. They have audited nearly all pharma companies. We'll add a link to their global audit library in case you're looking for a report of any pharma company. Do you consider becoming an auditor yourself? As an auditor, you'll see many companies from the inside. It's a demanding role and you need to have several skills like leadership skills, writing reports, and social and analytical skills. But this is, according to Edouard, the most beautiful part of the job.
For me, it has been, after 20 years doing this, an opportunity to understand and learn about many different cultures, but not with my camera and taking pictures of the monuments, but with a direct relationship with the people that is living and working in that company. That is another way of knowing the countries and the cultures.